Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'm going to be playing another premiere draft of Phyrexia, All Will Be One. Without further ado, let's just get into the draft. Our rare here is not super playable. It's a pretty fun one to build around for constructed, but 4 mana for a card that will slowly start making your instants and sorceries cheaper is not a high enough impact on the board state or the game as a whole for limited. We do have Ossification here as our best uncommon, and it's going to be the pick for us. 2 mana for an enchantment that enchants a land we control and exiles any target is great. Just cheap, efficient removal is premium in this format. It helps you deal with a lot of these scary, high-impact cards in the format, as well as a lot of the cheaper, toxic creatures like Flensing Raptor that can be hitting you for a lot of poison. So we're going to take Ossification here and be pretty happy with it. Pack 1, pick 2, we have a Viral Spawning as the best uncommon in this pack in green. For 2 and a green, we get a 3/3 with Toxic 1, and if our opponent has 3 or more poison counters on them, we can even cast this again and get another one. So a super good deal for a deck with a lot of toxic cards that can get those poison counters on your opponent. And white is one of the heaviest toxic colors, with cards like Crawling Chorus as cheap toxic creatures. We could just take Crawling Chorus, to be honest. It's one of white's best commons pretty easily. It's just incredible for toxic decks. If you can slam this down on turn 1, you're pretty much guaranteed to get at least 1 or 2 points of toxic in there, points of poison. But I like taking the Viral Spawning here and starting with a few cards, dipping our toes into multiple colors, so whatever is more open that's getting passed to us is what we get to scoop up. Alright, pack 1, pick 3, we have Complete Devotion, which is actually a really nice combat trick for toxic-focused strategies, being able to give a creature +2/+2 and draw a card if that creature's toxic. So if we end up in white, then this is likely to be a great combat trick, because white has plenty of toxic creatures. If we end up in white-green, it's going to be fantastic. So I'm pretty high on Complete Devotion. I don't know if I take it this early at pick 3, but there's not too much competing really hard because we'd have to jump into another color for a better card. Ambulatory Edifice is played very well in this format. There's just a lot of good 1 toughness creatures, so a 3 mana 3/2 that also relatively frequently just blows something up when it hits the board is quite nice. There's also Batterfist and Engraver as the best commons, 2 very good red 2-drops. I'm gonna go for the Edifice here, I guess. We'll stick to that plan of just taking the best card in the pack for a little while and seeing what happens to show up the most here. Now we have a Planar Disruption, which is premium removal in white. It does keep your opponent's creature on the board, so if it has important abilities that aren't activated abilities, if it has like triggered abilities that trigger whenever one of your creatures attacks or enters the battlefield or something like that, that ability will keep going on. Or if it has a static ability that just sits there and gives your opponent value, that'll keep happening. But other than that, Planar Disruption for only 2 mana is definitely super worth it. Your opponent could also sacrifice whatever you target or put it back to their hand. Those are other ways to get around this. But again, it's so efficient that it's really worth those drawbacks. We also have Sylvok Battle Chair in here being a really great card, and that would certainly be an option. It is a very good 6-drop game ender, but I'm going to go for the Planar Disruption there because you can definitely have a lot more cheap cards in your deck than expensive cards. While Sylvok Battle Chair is a premium 6-drop, I'd be happy to have that as my 1 6-mana card in the deck. I can have like 10 2-mana cards in my deck if I want, but I really can only have 2 or 3 at 6 mana, so I like to take the early cards higher when they're pretty close in value. For pack 1, pick 5, we have Gold Warden's Helm and Orthodoxy Enforcer, 2 pretty filler white cards. We have Rustvine Cultivator in green, which is pretty good at ramping you up. Not the greatest in green-white because we don't need to ramp up that much, but I still like it. There's also that Chimney Rabble in red being pretty great. It's a creature that attacks and blocks well, and those are pretty premium in this format. When you can get a creature on the board, slap your opponent with it, and still hold up a blocker. Pretty nice in a format as aggressive as this. Now we have Crawling Chorus, one of white's top commons. Pretty easily the pick. Urabrask's Anointer's pretty good if you're super heavy into oil, but that's not going to be able to happen if we're white-red or black-red. That's only going to be if we kind of pivot towards green-red here. So I'll just take the Crawling Chorus. Very, very good card for toxic strategies. Dune Mover is a fine card for toxic strategies. It can help us hit lands if we're not hitting them, help us hit any color that we're stuck on. Super fine stuff there. Not too much else in the pack. Pick 8 now we have Basilica Shepherd, which is phenomenal for toxic strategies at the top end. It's going to give you a nice flying body that also puts 2 Phyrexian mites on the board, so multiple bodies off of one card. Those mites can't block, but they can definitely help you get a wide board state to be able to attack with more creatures than your opponent can block with and try to find those last few points of damage or those last few points of poison. So Shepherd is great. Oil Gorger Troll also great, but this is specifically for energy strategies. So this is if we're in green-red or green-blue, Oil Gorger Troll is a premium common. If we're in green-white, a lot harder to make it work since white has very little when it comes to oil cards. So Quicksilver Fisher is pretty solid. Predation Steward also pretty solid, and you need a lot of 2-drops in this format. I'll just take the on-color one. See if we can end up in just like green-white here. Skull Bomb's pretty solid. Can give one of our toxic creatures flying. Jump over opponent's blockers, try to finish them off. We just need to make sure that we're okay with cycling this away in the early game when we have to be on the defensive. So I'll take the Skull Bomb here, but Terramorphic Expanse is also a decent option. We did wheel the Complete Devotion, pretty great sign. The tap lands are not as good as I initially wanted them to be. Because you do want to curve out pretty heavily in this format. There are a lot of like really good 1 and 2 mana plays. So I find that quite often throughout the early game, you're going to be using every single point of mana that you have. So having one of your lands come into play tapped can actually be a pretty big hindrance. So I'd still play like one of each tap land, but I try not to run a boatload of them or draft them particularly highly anymore. Alright, well, pack 2, pick 1, we get Zopandrel Hunger Dominus, a 7 mana 4/6 reach. At the beginning of each combat, we double the power and toughness of each creature we control. And for 2 green mana or 4 life, or 1 green and 2 life, we can sacrifice 2 other creatures, put an indestructible counter on this to save it from being destroyed in any way. And we can do that at instant speed, and we can do that without paying any mana if we have a high enough life total. Zopandrel's completely busted. It can often win the game the turn that it hits the board, and even if it doesn't, it's pretty dang good at sticking around. So Zopandrel's very easily the pick, and we're super committed to green now. We also have a ton of white cards, including Basilica Shepherd, 2 premium white removal spells, and a premium 1-drop. We're kind of committed to green-white here. No real moving around during this draft pod from now on. This pick's a little difficult. I'm really tempted to just take Crawling Chorus as the just 1 mana toxic creature to really get us going. But there's also the Jawbone Duelist for the double striking toxic creature. There's also the Ambassador for the potential indestructible 3/1. We can only give it indestructible that one time, but it's still just a great aggressive card. There's also Battle Chair at the top end, but we have a Zopandrel and a Basilica Shepherd at 5 and 7 mana now, so that's a little low on my list. But there's 3 really good 1 and 2 mana cards for this deck. So I really don't know what's the best here. I really feel like it might just be the Crawling Chorus, but we did get another Crawling Chorus pretty late, so I guess I'll go Jawbone Duelist. We'll stick to all toxic creatures here, see if we can wheel this Crawling Chorus as well. Alright, now we have another Viral Spawning. That's kind of just the pick. It's Viral Spawning versus Predation Steward, and this is the one that works better with our green-white toxic strategy. Alright, Viral Spawning copy number 3 it is. I know what I'm doing at 3 mana every game. Pick 5 now. We see Hexgold Slash and Volt Charge in red. That's pretty good red stuff here, but I guess we're just taking Predation Steward. Not going to be splashing here most likely. I do need more 2-drops. We do have Ossification and Planar Disruption, so it's not like I'm just out of removal if I stick to just white-green here. Yeah, again, we're pretty committed with how high quality our white cards are and how high quality Zopandrel triple Viral Spawning is. I don't think we can move around now. Titanic Growth it is. So it looks like we're not going to... Oh, never mind. I was going to say, it looks like we're not going to get a lot in pack 2 later on. We'll probably get some good stuff in pack 3, because I think these colors were relatively open during pack 1. But Evolving Adaptive is like green's best uncommon, so getting that pick 7 is really, really nice. This is like the quality of a rare. This is just Pelt Collector from the old Ravnica sets. Well, from the new Ravnica sets, but they're a few years old now, where you just play this turn 1, and then every time you play a creature from that point on, this is going to keep getting bigger if your next creature is bigger. So it scales as the game progresses. It's a 1/1 at first, then when you play a 2/2, it's a 2/2. Then when you play another creature with like 3 power toughness, it becomes a 3/3, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and Evolving Adaptive is great. And that's even if you don't have any Proliferate. If you do have Proliferate, it gets even better. So we're just rare drafting there because no on-color cards. So again, like technically we're not seeing a lot of cards in our color, but the quality of cards in our deck is still pretty high, and we only need like 6 more playables here. We have 18 cards, one of which is a land, so that's 17. Add 6 cards to that, we're at 23 non-land cards and 17 lands, which is your average limited deck. Ideally, we find 7 more playables, that way we can run a 16 land deck here potentially, although we do have that 7 mana bomb rare, so I don't know about that. Vanish into an Eternity is really not very good when you're using it on a creature because it's 6 mana, but it's decent because there are some non-creature cards you can use it on, but I found it to be way too expensive generally as interaction for the format, so I'm just going to take Sylvok Battle Chair. Another Fair Basilica, I guess. Don't know if I want to run both, but I probably will. Alright, so pack 3, pick 1. What do we have here? First I want to check my creature count, but I'm pretty sure I'm taking Tyvar Stand. This is just very efficient interaction to counter your opponent's removal spells, or sometimes kill them out of nowhere. If they choose not to block something, you can just kind of use this as a fireball, spend 7 mana to deal 6 damage to them when your unblocked creature gets in. So that's probably what we're taking, but I do want to see how many creatures we have. 9 creatures, 9 non-creatures. Do any of our non-creatures make creatures? Yeah, we have 3 viral spawning, so technically 12 creatures, 6 non-creatures. This is going to be 12-7 right now. We ideally want 4 or 5 more creatures in this deck, so we need to value creatures higher than non-creatures as this draft progresses. So here that means we pretty easily take Basilica Shepherd. I need to also see how many 2-mana creatures I have. We got to make sure we have enough 1 and 2-mana creatures to be curving out pretty well in the game. And it looks like we're doing pretty good there. 4 2-mana creatures is not a lot, but we have 3 1-mana creatures as well, making up for that. So that's 7 creatures we can play turn 2 or earlier. So we're actually doing pretty well on the curve. I mean, if anything, for the next creatures I'm taking, I'm still going to focus on just more 2-drops and 3-drops, but yeah, curve's looking fine. Pretty much any creatures we pick up here to fill out the deck with will complete it pretty well. Lightbringer's not very good without any equipment. I guess I have the 1 battle chair, but that's not worth it. We could take the Hunter Maze, but that probably wheels, so I guess that leaves just Mirror Kinsmith, which is pretty much unplayable if it's your only mirror, and Flesh Cutter, which I guess I take? I don't know about this. I've never played this card yet, but I have played against it a few times, and it's actually been kind of scary sometimes when my opponent ran it. But I'm not sure if it'll make the cut. We'll see, based on how our cards look at the end of the draft. Charge of the Mites probably makes the cut in this archetype, because we actually do have a use for either halves of this card. We have multiple creatures like the 2 Basilica Shepherds that put multiple creatures on the board to have a wide enough board state to maybe actually kill something with the first ability on this. And we also, of course, care about Toxic quite a bit, so creating those 2 Mites at instant speed can also be helpful. So Charge of the Mites actually looks decent for this strategy. Zealot's Conviction also actually a decent trick for this strategy. Now we have Contagious Vorak, which I am going to take over Basilica Shepherd. I think this card is just nuts. This card is like green's best common. 3 mana for a 3/3 that draws you a card is a ridiculous rate in limited, and this is basically that. It always draws you a land card. It digs for land out of the top 4, but that's still 2-for-1 value. And if you're late in the game and you don't need the land, you can just proliferate instead. You can choose not to pick up the land even if you see one, and just put another poison counter on your opponent or another oil counter on one of your cards. So we're going to take the Vorak over the 3rd Basilica Shepherd there, but I do think the 3rd Basilica Shepherd would be nice as well. Take Complete Devotion here. Injector is sometimes okay though, because you can like stack up one creature with a ton of Toxic if you have a good evasive creature to put it on. I don't have a ton of those though. My flyers are all 5 mana, so I don't think Injector is going to work great in this deck. But if you have a bunch of like the 2 mana 1/1 Toxic flyer, you know, putting extra Toxic on that can actually be pretty scary, which is fun. Take a bunch of Complete Devotions. Probably better than Swooping Lookout, although our creature count is at 15 here because we have Battle Chair and triple spawning. 15 is a tiny bit low, but I don't think it's worth playing Lookout to fix that. I will play Orthodoxy Enforcer in here. We don't have any 4-mana creatures yet, and this plays pretty well with Basilica Shepherds. If we play this turn 4 and Basilica Shepherd turn 5, we get 2 Might tokens. The Mites are artifacts, which will make the Enforcer a 4/4. I guess I could just take another Predation Steward though, but I want to try out the Enforcer with double Basilica Shepherd. Because again, getting 2 Phyrexian Mites on the board will activate this, make it just a 4/4 Vigilance. Now we'll take a Bardiche, which I could also play. Not phenomenal, but you put this onto anything, it'll make it a pretty ridiculous threat. That is a super late Cinder Slash Ravager. This card's been a huge overperformer. I thought it was going to be the weakest of the 2-color uncommons. It actually ended up being pretty much the strongest because red-green energy is just such a good archetype, and there's so many good 1 toughness creatures to blow up with that. Alright, I think our deck's pretty great. I like being in green-white Toxic here, but we definitely could have been green-red energy in this draft pod as well, it looks like. Alright, or green-red oil, not green-red energy. I always get those two mixed up because they're such similar archetypes. The green-red oil archetype in this format reminds me a lot of the green-red energy archetype in Kaladesh. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. We're probably not cutting any creatures because we've got 12... 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, 17 creatures here. I mean, maybe cut 1, like a Bardiche or something. Then we cut 3 non-creature cards is what we want to do. Alright, so when it comes to combat tricky stuff, we have 3 Complete Devotions and Titanic Growth and Skull Bomb. That feels like a lot. I don't actually have a boatload of toxic creatures. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, that's fine. That's enough to probably run Complete Devotions over Growth, probably Skull Bomb as well. Flesh Cutter can be spooky, but it is real slow. I do gotta make room in terms of my non-creature stuff. I feel like Flesh Cutter is gonna end up just being like a weaker version of Battle Chair. I guess it's a little quicker, but Battle Chair is just really gonna win the game when we put it on any creatures. Flesh Cutter's like, now our creatures attack a little better. Put out some mites while they do, and then we can keep putting this on the mites to keep just constantly attacking with 3/1s every turn. It's not helping us block at all. Not making our creature the turn we play it. Yeah, I'm not in love with that. Maybe just cut these 4. Seems fine to me. Maybe cut 1 Complete Devotion over the Bardiche. Keep that in here. 5 mana, 4/3 Vigilance. With the equipment to move around on all of our mediocre creatures later to make them still matter late in the game. Similar to like the Flesh Cutter, except that it actually just comes with a creature immediately. Still not in love with it. I'll probably just keep all the tricks. Yeah. Cut these 4. And I think I am keeping 17 lands in here. We've got a near unbeatable 7-drop, and then a really, really powerful game-ending 6-drop as well. We really want to hit these as early as we can when we draw them. So I think, I mean, we'll look at our colors here. 11-11, pretty much even. I guess we'll go a tiny bit more green because green gives us Vorak. Can dig for more lands. And we have, I guess I have double white cards as well with Basilica Shepherds. Yeah, we're super even on both colors. Maybe I run a tiny bit more white then because we have the 2 Fair Basilicas to cycle away late game. To sacrifice to draw another card. So later in the game we're going to be down some white sources as we use the Fair Basilicas. Not that it'll really matter that late in the game because then we should have like 3 of each. Yeah, and I guess our early white cards are like removal spells that we can play later, a combat trick we can play later. Whereas with green, we have 4 green creatures at 2 mana or less. So 4 green cards we always want to play. Turn 2 or fewer. Actually, even Charge of the Mites we can play later. So it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 green cards that we want to be able to cast turn 3 or sooner. And just 2 white cards at those mana costs. Like all the other white cards, we wait a little bit. We don't generally play Complete Devotion turn 2. Sometimes we'll want to play it turn 3. But like Ossification and Planar Disruption as well, they're removal spells, so we just wait till there's a good threat we need to remove. So those usually get played later as well. And then kind of same with Charge of the Mites. Yeah, no, I think Arena was actually right here. We do want 1 more green source than white sources, as our green early game plays are more important. Because we always need to put things on the board first before we start using combat tricks, obviously, but we also need to start playing creatures and stuff before we play removal spells as well. So yeah, that'll be the mana base, and that's going to be the deck. Alright, here's a look at the deck we're going to play today. This is a green-white toxic deck, focused around not a ton of toxic creatures, to be honest. We didn't find a bunch of them in the draft pod, but what we do have are cards like Crawling Chorus, Jawbone Duelist, Dune Mover, and a few viral spawnings to at least hope to poison our opponent enough to corrupt them, and then be able to recast these viral spawnings so these are multiple 3/3s off of the 1 card, which should be pretty sweet if we can get that going. Some 2-for-1 creatures right there. We've got cards like Contagious Vorak just being solid 2-for-1 creatures, Stewards to just fill out the curve, and some Basilica Shepherds at the top end, giving us some more Phyrexian Mites and a flying threat. Pretty good interaction in the deck. We have 3 removal spells, 2 premium ones, Planar Disruption and Ossification, 1 that's a little more filler with Charge of the Mites, where we do need to work around it, make sure we have a wide board state to use it. But then we have a bunch of combat tricks to try to leverage to get our opponent's bigger creatures out of the way. 3 Complete Devotions, which are great when we use them on a toxic creature, and pretty mediocre otherwise. And then 1 Tyvar's Stand, which is very flexible and very powerful. Then, of course, we've got 2 very good game enders. Sylvok Battle Chair, one you're going to see quite often because it is uncommon. A 6-mana 6/6 trample, good old Colossal Dreadmaw that you can then move this equipment around later and turn even a 1/1 into a game-ending threat. And then last but not least, of course, our mythic rare bomb, so Pandrel Hunger Dominus, which is going to win the game very quickly when it hits the board. And if it doesn't, it even has an ability to potentially protect itself. So that's the deck for today. Let's go ahead and get into the gameplay and see how it does. Here we are in game 1 against Mr. Metronome. No play turn 1 or turn 2 is a bit of an issue, but we're on the play, so we shouldn't be punished too hard for it, especially with Planar Disruption if Mr. Metronome has that very good early aggro. Already got plenty of lands. I might just start with a viral spawning this game. Alright, Mr. Metronome took 1 mulligan, and we're going to be getting into the game. Blue-white. Mandible Justiciar, turn 2. So probably the blue-white artifacts deck. I'd rather trade a Vorak into that than a viral spawning, so I guess I am going to play the Vorak here. Because Metronome is likely to be able to just play any other artifact creature, buff the Justiciar, and defeat the Vorak. Eye of Malcator. Technically not an artifact creature, but when Metronome plays another artifact, it will become a creature till end of turn, and it's a 4/4. So basically an artifact creature, and a really big one at that. We are in some trouble here. Because that's going to hit very hard if Metronome follows it up with more artifacts. We'll probably have to trade Vorak into this Justiciar. I'm not going to have a creature big enough to block the Eye. Probably still spawning. I don't really feel like I want to disrupt the Eye immediately. Metronome still deciding to scry here. Going to go for both on top. And we're going to go for the trade with the Justiciar. We're never going to outrace that thing. It's going to lifelink us for 3 every single turn. We drop the Fair Basilica and a Viral Spawning and pass. And try to get Metronome some poison counters here. We might even just double up with another Viral Spawning. Get Metronome corrupted. Another Mandible Justiciar. That's definitely spooky. The Eye is going to be hitting us as a 4/4. We'll go down to 16, and then Metronome's got a great lifelinker out. Veil of Assimilation, so that's +1/+1 and Vigilance whenever that or another artifact hits the board. So hit for 5 here. Down to 15. I really don't want to have to planar disrupt this Eye, because eventually, like, Metronome's already down to 2 cards. Eventually Metronome runs out of artifacts and this just stops hitting me. But the Justiciar gets to keep trying to gain life. I guess if I just play Steward, Steward's big enough to block Justiciar even if Metronome plays an artifact? I guess not, because they do the double pump. Make it a 4/3. Yeah, Steward's actually not going to be big enough if Metronome plays 1 artifact. Alright, well, let's definitely try to get some poison in here. I go Viral Spawning, but then the question between Steward and Disruption is definitely a question. I can disrupt the Eye. The Eye can't attack if Metronome doesn't play more artifacts. Or I can just play Steward and have another blocker for Justiciar. I'll just play Steward here. I just gotta hope that Metronome runs out of artifacts eventually. Alright, well, there's another artifact, but Metronome's down to 1 card now. We're gonna get hit pretty hard here. I want to corrupt them pretty badly. Do I want to corrupt them enough to not trade into this Justiciar? Because I have 2 Viral Spawnings in my grave, so I really need to corrupt them. Like, if I trade into the Justiciar on blocks here, I have 1 Toxic creature on the board. It's going to take a while. And if Mr. Metronome has 1 removal spell in hand to kill my other Toxic creature, then I'm not going to be able to corrupt him. I think I need to take this. Because I need to corrupt him pretty badly. I might even need to disrupt the other Justiciar to guarantee the corruption. I go pretty dang low here, especially if the Eye comes in as well. Metronome's got 3 mana ups. There could be a combat trick here. I feel like that would just be a slam dunk attack though. I don't think there's a lot of great combat tricks for the artifact deck, because the best white trick is just Complete Devotion for the Toxic deck. It probably is, I'm just forgetting it. Another just good white combat trick. There's 1 blue combat trick, it's like +1/+3 flying Toxic. Oh yeah, I got Vigilance from the Veil, so even if I Disruption, I can't guarantee that I corrupt them. But make it so I corrupt them or they chump block. Orthodoxy Enforcer does not do a ton here. Yep, I think we disrupt here. Try to find the corruption. Offer the Steward trade. Steward Trait is fine. Okay, Corrupted, so we can play some Viral Spawnings, but I'm just going to play the 2/4 Vigilance because it attacks and blocks pretty well here. It's also more mana efficient. But being able to chip in, Metronome does not have good blocks for this, and then still being able to block to keep myself from dying if Metronome plays like 2 artifacts here and really goes explosive. That is definitely nice. Like if Metronome has a Basilica Shepherd in hand, then he can drop that, put 2 Phyrexian Mites on the board, all of a sudden the Eye is attacking as a 5/5, Justiciar is attacking as a, what, 5/4 or something, and I might have to just trump block. So, being able to keep chipping in with this thing while holding up a blocker is nice. Okay, well that's a pretty big yikes. But, I mean, same thing would happen if we went for a Viral Spawning there. We would just not have a blocker here and take 8. Go to 3. Metronome goes back to 20. Yeah, good grief. Oh, hey, Zopandrel. Well, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good draw. We need to hold up a lot of blockers here. Is 3 blockers enough for 3 attackers? If Metronome has another Chrome Prowler, we would just die? I think I play around another Chrome Prowler and attack with only the Enforcer here. Next turn I can make quite a few attacks though, because I can double spawning. And have multiple more blockers. So we die to another Chrome Prowler if I attacked with 2 creatures because Metronome would have 3 attackers because the Eye would activate and he would tap down one of our 3 blockers if I only hold up 3. Escaped Experiment. Well, it is another artifact, but my blocks should all be more than big enough here because of Zopandrel's ability. Really saved by Zopandrel this game. We would be really, really bad state without him. There's a Crawling Chorus. I can double spawning and Chorus. Have 3 more blockers here, so Metronome potentially has 4 attackers. I need to be able to block 4 things even through another Chrome Prowler. So I need to have 5 blockers up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Means I can attack with 3 things. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I can attack with 3 things here. Yeah, I think I do that. This is stressful. The 3 life just means I'm dead to literally any creature hitting me, so I just need to have a ton of blocks at all times. Six life from Metronome means this is the turn. We definitely lethal if we don't die. Okay, Basilica Shepherd is the draw. Buffs up Enforcer, so we do it pre-combat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, Metronome's going to scoop them up here. And that is going to be 1-0 to start it off. Really thanks to Zopandrel there. Metronome had a sick blue-white artifacts deck. I still haven't drafted that archetype yet. I don't think I've ever been able to get the like Cephalopod Sentries and stuff and try to go for the blue-white artifact aggro, but that was some sick stuff. That was a nasty deck from Metronome. We just got lucky with our big spooky bomb. Alright, here we are in game 2 on the play here. We've got a Crawling Chorus that we can't play turn 1 because we have the tap land, where that card is pretty punishing. We've got Zopandrel late game. We've got a 1-drop, a 2-drop, a 4-drop. We'll just have to wait on the chorus a little bit. Yep, seems like a keep to me. Playing against a red deck. I guess I'm going to be mana efficient here, go for the 2-drop. Sorry, Crawling Chorus, but we're probably going to use Crawling Chorus plus Complete Devotion to try to draw a card cycle into another land for later. Should have another white source so I could hold up Chorus as a blocker plus Devotion here for the rat. I probably just don't attack since I can't do that. I'll just block with Steward. I'll trade Steward for a Combat Trick or a Blight Belly Rat. It's the +3/+1, that's like a little bad, but anything else is fine. Yeah, that's a pretty fine trade with me. Ooh, Evolving Adaptive. Moderately awkward to draw it now, because it makes me not want to play Enforcer this turn. But I guess I get to hold up complete Devotion instead. Although again, I want to use this to draw a card, so I guess I'm just not even attacking with Chorus. Go for a rat block. Could proliferate my oil counter if they want to be nice, but they're not going to be nice. Forge Hammer Centurion from our opponent now. We're now at 5 out of 7 for Zopandrel, so we're getting very close. Go ahead and buff our adaptive and get a 2/4 to block the Centurion. We've got 2 creatures that are big enough, so we're chilling. We're just waiting for the 7 mana here. Furnace Strider from our opponent. We're not chilling as much anymore. That's a bit of a threat, but it's not going to kill me that quickly. I've got a little bit of time. Alright, sure. We'll take 4 and then we'll hit them for 2 on the crackback. Okay, we do hit another land, so we are guaranteed to play Zopandrel next turn, which is quite nice. Get that Enforcer in there and pass the turn. So their next threat is going to come with haste because of Furnace Strider's activated ability. Oh, I'm glad Zopandrel has reach. But if our opponent has an exile removal spell for Zopandrel, we'll probably still die, and even if they just try to destroy it, we could end up dying because we'll have to pay the 4 life to keep it around, and we'll end up with not a lot of blockers. I think I go for the chump here with the Chorus, because it replaces itself with a Might that I can still sacrifice to give Zopandrel indestructible later. And I need to keep my life total high enough to activate Zopandrel at instant speed if they have a targeted destroy removal spell. I have to be able to pay 4 life, give it indestructible. So I need Zopandrel to block Archfiend, adaptive to block another creature, so I can't really attack. I guess I could attack with a Might, but can't attack with any of my non-vigilant creatures, my non-vigilant blockers. Okay, first poison counter for our opponent towards Viral Spawning Corruption. We can try to just outlast the Archfiend of Dross. If I can stay alive until they remove all the counters from this, this will force them to lose the game. I don't necessarily have to be attacking with anything that isn't vigilant. And I probably won't be. They have a removal spell to kill it before it doubles up toughness here. Or a removal spell to kill something else before it doubles up toughness here. Opponent is definitely in the think tank here. Okay, sorry. It's Volt Charge on Evolving Adaptive. I can go to 4 life, sacrificing Adaptive and the Might to make Zopandrel indestructible just in case. Or I stay at 8 and Zopandrel is not indestructible. I feel like I have to stay at 8, because if I pay the 4 life here, sacking Adaptive and the Might, I can go block Archfiend, block Strider, take 3, go to 1 life. That feels too low. Most of the removal should be difficult to kill Zopandrel with in red anyway. I feel like if they had like a targeted just destroy Zopandrel thing, they would have just Volt Charged earlier and then played the sorcery speed like destroy Zopandrel trick. Yeah, we're gonna go to 1 life if I give Zopandrel indestructible here, so I'm just gonna let it happen. This way, we go to 5 if they attack with everybody, and I kill Archfiend. Or I could go to 4 and kill Centurion. Yeah, so they just don't attack. Planar Disruption. That's pretty phenomenal on Archfiend. Because now it's not going to do anything for them anymore. Except sit there and threaten to kill them eventually. Orthodoxy Enforcer is going to be a 4/8 when we go to combat, so it's not going to be big enough. Like, they could double block with Furnace Strider and Centurion and we trade it into the Centurion. I actually don't... I think I just don't have attacks here. We're just trying to wait out their Archfiend of the Dross. Six, 6, and a 4/8 is a blocker. I guess I could send Zopandrel in, but I am down to 6. I forgot Archfiend makes me lose 2 life every time one of my creatures dies. So I would have died on the spot if I used Zopandrel because of Archfiend's extra text there. Block, block. If it was Zopandrel, we need them to hit like nothing. Next turn. Just need to draw dead 1 turn. If I attack with everybody next turn, block, block, take 6. Yeah, I mean, hit them with Zopandrel here, and then next turn we kill them. Cross our fingers. Dig with the Dross Pits. Hoping for no haste creature. Or no, like, really good removal for Zopandrel. They have, like, 1 removal spell. We could still live. Actually, no, because... We still die because of Archfiend's ability. Archfiend is a hell of a card. Archfiend actually as good as Zopandrel. Yeah, I guess we're dead. Because they hit the removal. They don't see it though, okay. Well, wait, no, we're not dead. I'm such a doofus. Oh my god. We're not dead because this is a 6/6, not a 3/3, so it doesn't die on blocks. So they're forcing the double. Never mind. Zopandrel is much better than Archfiend. Archfiend's really, really good though. It's like so spooky. They have to block both of these. They have to go chump chump. Oh, I should have cycled Fair Basilica first in case I hit complete devotion. I would have killed them on the spot. Another viral spawning? Okay. Filtering the Autonomous Furnace into another card. Playing a land, dropping a Prophetic Prism for another card. Kemba, Ka, Enduring is one blocker, which is not going to be enough, and Zopandrel is just going to give us another free victory. A lot of little things that I wasn't thinking about that game. I do not think I played particularly well, but Zopandrel is such a busted card that he's going to find the victory regardless, and that's definitely a part of the Phyrexia all will be one format. Absurd level bombs like Zopandrel. Just winning games you had no business winning. Archfiend is really scary too. I really want to play with this card at some point. It does make you lose the game eventually, but with a little bit of Proliferate, you can slow that down, and even without Proliferate, often that's going to be big enough to just kill your opponent. A 4-mana 6/6 flyer with massive upside, making it so every time they chump block, they lose 2 life. Yeah, that card's super spooky too. I like that a lot. Alright, 2-0 heading into game 3. Alright, opponent is on the play here. We've got a turn 1 Cultivator, then we play a tapped Basilica. And nothing turn 2, or I just go Basilica and then Steward turn 2, but I want to get the Cultivator down as soon as possible. I think it's a keep. I mean, 4 of my cards are castable with the lands that I have in hand. And the Cultivator can help me get to the Shepherd a little early. But it is a little bit slow, again, because the tap land here. Churning Reservoir, turn 1 from our opponent. They can put an oil counter on one of their creatures every turn, or one of their artifacts. And they can make some goblins later. Did hit another untapped land, so now I can Steward turn 2, and everything looks pretty nice with the hand. There's a Steward of their own. They can keep putting more and more oil on too, which is cute. Red-green oil, the most powerful archetype in the format, just has a lot of really good payoffs. Bunch of 2-for-1 value spells and stuff like Oil Gorger Trolls, Cinder Slash Ravagers being able to be like 4-mana 5/5s with Vigilance. Kuldotha Cacklers being able to slam incredibly hard. Another Predation Steward here. And we will pass the turn. So Cackler now attacks as a 4/3 trample. Already pretty nasty. If they play another oil creature, it attacks as a 5/3 trample. I mean, it already makes us 2-for-1 ourselves to trade into it. So we just take the damage. Plan is probably to try to trade a Basilica Shepherd into it. That's a really big yikes. Now an Anointer gets to shoot something. So it's going to be a 2-for-1, a 4/2 that's also a removal spell attached. The oil deck is popping off. Shoot one of our stewards. Well, we're happy that we get to keep our mana to work. At the very least, to guarantee Basilica Shepherd this turn, but things are not looking great. So here's Basilica Shepherd. And we pass the turn. Cackler attacking as a 5/3 now because they can put an oil counter on the Anointer. They can actually just use Predation Steward to buff the Cackler, but it's +2/+2, so I can just double block if they do that. At least it soaks up some of their mana to do so. Yeah, Steward can do that +2/+2 ability on the Cackler, so that we can't just 1-for-1 trade. Alright. This is definitely a combat trick with Anointers coming in. Okay. Might still be a combat trick, but most combat tricks in the format will beat us even if we double block. Free from Flesh. I guess free from the +3/+1 and the +2/+2 would not... Cackler would still die if I double block. But there's the Hexproof Indestructible that would kill both of our creatures. And if they don't have a combat trick and I double block, I'm just sacking Predation Steward for nothing. And then I have a 1/2 as my only creature on board that can block against this stuff. I think I need them to just not have a trick here. Because if I double block and then they just don't cast a combat trick, that's pretty horrific. And it is the Tyvar stand, so we made the right choice. It would be the right choice if they weren't going to cast a combat trick or if they had Tyvar stand, which I think is a more likely scenario than them having Free from Flesh or the +3/+1. Because I think they would make that attack even with no tricks in hand. And then they would also make that attack if they had Tyvar stand. So, kind of just like a no information block there. Enforcer is a 4/4 Vigilance now, thanks to Basilica Shepherd. Just play another Shepherd to trade into the Cackler, but then Predation Steward just buffs it. Yeah, we were just falling behind there. Very, very big Cackler. They're Anointer 2-for-1s and Reservoir value. So we have to double block Cackler now and still get trampled over for 1,000,000 because they don't have anything else to do with their mana. Actually, now they can just put a Halberd onto the Cackler. Okay, well. We don't actually have any play that helps us block Cackler at all when they have Halberd on board. Yep. And good beats. That's not going to do anything for us either. Guess I could chump with enough creatures. Need to chump with at least 3 toughness to not die. They get 5 toughness if they use the Steward. To lose 2 creatures or lose my Enforcer. I guess I only need to lose 1 right now, but I go to 2 life. If that's the case, then I'm dead to Volt Charge, which I really don't want to be dead to Volt Charge. I'm never going to have the mana to use Steward. I'm just going to go for that. We'll be dead to Volt Charge. Sick Nasty. Also dead to Slash. That is going to be 2 and 1. Very, very nice green-red aggro. Oil curve out from our opponent. Heading into game number 4. Alright, here we are in game 4. Opponent on the play. Really nice hand here. One of the best ones we've drawn so far. Drop a Fair Basilica, pass the turn. Got a Dune Mover. I don't think I want to put a land on top right now. I just want to play this out. The only thing... I guess I have 2 cards in my deck that would make me want to land on top, which would be Zopandrel and our 6-drop thing. But outside of that, I'm not just going to bank on drawing those. I'm not going to hold up Charge the Mites. I'll hold up Complete Devotion, though. Get our tap land out of the way. Got 1 poison counter on our opponent. They are on blue-white. Orthodoxy Enforcer is the first play. Complete Devotion would be a really good trick. If they let us do it here. They probably won't. Ooh. Alright, Complete Devotion is going to be really nasty. We win this combat and draw a card. And then we'll just pass the turn. Keep our Ossification and Charge the Mites for scarier threats later. Probably dropping Basilica Shepherd next turn. Suppose it depends on if my opponent plays another creature with 2 power or less. Indoctrination Attendant, that is too big to beat with Complete Devotion, but I can trade into it with Devotion. I think I would rather just play the Shepherd and pass right now. And yeah, playing the Shepherd is going to make the Enforcer a 4/4 Vigilance whenever we play that later, which is quite nice. Hex Gold Hoverwings from our opponent. Gives him a 3/2 flyer here. Four creatures on board for Charge of the Mites. I could just blow up all of their blockers here. I feel like that's where it's at. 4 damage to the Attendant. And then we will ossify the Rebel. Because then, even if they have enchantment removal, they don't get their creature back because it's a token. And they can't block anything here. They're corrupted if we hit a viral spawning. We'll pass the turn. Ichor Synthesizer from our opponent. So they've got a 1/3 blocker at least, which threatens to block Dune Mover well, but we have that Complete Devotion. We're going to go to combat first, holding up our combat trick, and then, of course, after we cast that, we'll start playing more creatures. There's a viral spawning, that's going to be super nasty, and our opponent's already over it with the Complete Devotion as the 2-for-1 combat trick. That game really showing off the power of Complete Devotion when your opponent makes some decent blocks. All of a sudden you turn it way in your favor. Make it so your creature wins the combat, so you're trading your combat trick into their creature, and you're drawing a card. So you're getting a 2-for-1 out of this card when you do manage to get those toxic creatures on board. So again, this deck is not perfect. We don't have nearly as many toxic creatures as we want. We'd much rather have like Branch Blight Striders than Predation Stewards, like 2-mana toxic creatures, over all these Predation Stewards and kind of random nonsense like that. But I do like that we're still getting to show off the power level of these Complete Devotion and Charge the Might style cards for if you did draft a more synergistic, kind of better green-white toxic deck than what we have here. So that was nice. Get at least 1 win, just showing off the power of some of these really nice instants at common, instead of just entirely riding Zopandrel all the way to victory. So 3-1, already pretty happy. I think the deck's relatively mediocre looking. The big issue being a little bit of a lack of synergy with the low amount of toxic creatures and a slightly low amount of interaction. We do have at least a few removal spells, but a little less than I'd generally like. But yeah, so 3-3 would be a perfectly fine, perfectly reasonable record for this pile of cards. But we'll see if we can take it any farther. Adaptive, the Nombo with Jawbone Duelist. Our only creature in the deck that's too small to evolve the Adaptive. Adaptive's not going to evolve till turn 6 now. I'm actually pretty cool with trading into Ambassador here, because Ambassador would trade into 2 cards otherwise because of its indestructibility. And they're just not going to take the trade, so we'll drop the Jawbone Duelist, and I still have Ossification if I really need to kill the Ambassador. Complete Devotion is very, very good on Jawbone Duelist if they don't just kill it with a Hex Gold Slash or something. They would just kill it if I block here. They just spend 1 mana to give Ambassador Indestructible and win the combat. Alright, so they play a Batter Fist. Okay, my choices are Ossification or Complete Devotion, and that's it. Do I want to just hold Duelist back? Block the 3-1? That plays really bad against Hex Gold Slash or Volt Charge. I almost think I'd rather just send in and then Ossify here. Ossify the potential indestructible creature up there. Not sending in the adaptive because I don't really want to trade it into their 2/2 Rebel. That I'll wait and see if I can make it bigger. So Hex Gold Slash is the 1 red mana instant removal spell in the format. It does 2 damage to a creature, but it does 4 damage to the creature if it's toxic, which is why Complete Devotion is not that good, and I don't think I'm going to hold it up. And of course, Volt Charge would also just kill Duelist, because that's just 3 damage. I can make Duelist 3 toughness, but that's also not big enough. Dune Mover. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lands already towards the 6 needed for Battle Chair. I really don't want to flood out. This is maybe a little greedy, but I'm going to play Dune Mover and not put a land on top, because I really don't want to hit like 2 lands in a row. And I only need to draw 1 land in the next 2 draw steps. And if I don't draw lands, then it'll be other spells that I can just cast anyway. Unless I draw specifically Zopandrel. Every other spell in my deck I have enough mana for right now. So even non-land cards are just good draws. So we're not going to put lands on top. The opponent is still just kind of chilling at 2 mana here for now. We'll keep taking the hits from the Batter Fist. Furnace Skullbomb is the play. Definitely going to get cycled not immediately. I would have just immediately sacked that and see if I hit my land drop per turn. But opponent might have some very good oil cards in their deck that make them want to keep that around. Well, now I can charge the Mites. They're 1 creature. Make sure I'm pretty far ahead here. I can't speak English today. I'm pretty far ahead. Maybe I just have murder on the mind, just beheading people now? The toxic is corrupting me. Alright, Furnace Skullbomb does get cycled. I think I am going to charge the Mites there. They're 1 creature here, so we stop taking damage. I'll wait until post-combat, though, to see, yeah, if I need to kill something else. So Urbrask Forge, now we have to outrace an Urbrask Forge. That is spooky. Making 2 Mites is definitely not going to outrace it. I think it's better to just kill their 3/1 here. And then hope to play a Battle Chair next turn. Probably Complete Devotion to hit them harder. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can hit them for 8 next turn. But I'm taking 4 here, then I'm taking 5. I guess I do kill them in 2 swings. If I just make 2 Mites. That is risky, though. I think I still kill them in 2 swings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're down to 5. Yeah, I'm going to kill them in 2 swings, like, either way. So it's probably better to kill the Batter Fist here. Unless they hold it up as a blocker. Although even then, Complete Devotion wouldn't be enough to make Dune Mover survive getting blocked by the Batter Fist. It would be enough to make Adaptive survive. Okay, so they're going to send it all in, so we're going to shoot this thing. Take 1. I could cycle this, try to land. But if I don't hit a land, if I hit like a 3-drop, it'll be nice to play a 3-drop and get 2 extra points of damage in here. I do hit a land, so it's Battle Chair time. Oh, which technically doesn't buff the adaptive, because it's a 2/1 when it hits the board. that becomes a 6/6 when it becomes equipped. Just now noticed that. Thought I was going to be buffing adaptive a little bit there. I got a little excited. Alright, so we block the forge. Super okay with Rebel Salvo here. Well, I don't hit the land to equip Battle Chair, so opponent is still alive for now. Playing Shepherd buffs adaptive by 1. Playing Complete Devotion hits for 2 more, puts them to 1 life. I think I'd rather go Shepherd. I still hit them. I hit them for 1 less damage this way, but this way I have a chump blocker for the Forge. Just make sure I'm alive, and then I have a million creatures to really guarantee lethal next turn. So yeah, as long as I survive this turn, I have so many creatures and a Complete Devotion. If any of these get in, they're gonna die. Let's just make sure we're alive. Axiom Engraver. Alright, that's lethal on board, and they are going to scoop them up. We are going to be 4-1 now. Pretty lucky game for us again there because our opponent got quite unlucky. Kept the 2-lander. It was a reasonable keep, though, because they had, what, like turn 2 Batterfist, and they were really just trying to hit that Urbrask's Forge. I'm guessing Urbrask's Forge and Rebel Salvo were likely in their opening hand. Yeah, if they hit their 3rd source earlier, we were going to have a really bad time there. They probably could have found the win, but alright, so here we are, 4-1, which is a pretty great record for this deck. 4-3 at worst would make us pretty much break even, but again, see how far we can take it, and if we can win 1 more game, we're going to be in the money. Alright, here we are now in game 6. Mono green hand, but we do curve out with a 2-drop and a 3-drop. If we can corrupt them, the spawning's going to be super good. We've got a great late game. See how it works out for us. Uh-oh, Crawling Chorus, turn 1 on the play is one of the scariest starts in the format. We could get corrupted very quickly, making a lot of the cards in their deck play quite a bit stronger. They are white-blue, and they are going to get 1 poison counter on us immediately. Now a Mere Convert, yep, that's 1-drop Toxic Creature, 2-drop Toxic Creature. It's happening. Caustic has entered the building. Trade into this convert. And there's a Malcator's Watcher. Alright, we haven't drawn any lands yet. We've drawn 2 more white cards, so our need for white mana is rising pretty quickly. But haven't gotten punished yet, because we did have the 3 lands in the opener, so we still have played a land every turn so far. Got 1 final opportunity to preferably hit a Plains, and there you go, Fair Basilica. It's not a Plains, so it's not perfect, because I don't get to play anything this turn, but it should be pretty good once it untaps. Once again, the Fair Basilica actually just being more of a downside than a benefit this game. Games can often end too quickly for you to end up sacrificing these, but they're definitely not slow enough where you don't get punished for having them come to play tapped. So that's where they play kind of poorly, is that you frequently get punished for them entering play tapped, but you don't always get the reward at the end of the tunnel of sacrificing them. Like, I don't know if we've sacrificed 1 yet today, but we've played like 4 or 5 copies. Alright, Basilica Shepherd is really not what we want to see. Our opponent's got a very wide board state now. I do hit a 2nd white source, which is excellent. That is what we want. Now we can play Crawling Chorus and pacify the Shepherd, I guess. Likely our best option here, and then I can still hold up Tyvar's stand. I don't really want to charge the Mites because it's only 2 damage right now. And All of their other creatures are 1 toughness, so they're not that exciting. This board state, a very clear example of why the green-red uncommon has been so phenomenal. Imagine the green-red oil deck just having a swell time here. It's alright, I'll play a Cinder Slash Ravager, and the board is gone. Alright, we are guaranteed to get corrupted if they send everybody in, and they are going to do that. Trade our choruses and kill the mover. Could be worth it to Tyvar stand to keep this chorus on board so I have another blocker one more time. If I really want to lower the number of attackers they have, I should actually just block a Might with the chorus, because the chorus will replace itself with a Might here. This is so awkward, but I think I'm just going to be on Tyvar's stand. Might as well X equals 1. I think I really need to leave as many blockers on board as I can. I'm not going to get into a position where I use Tyvar stand on the aggressive. Okay. Alright, well, that makes me very happy. Contagious Vorak can draw us the land and put the 3rd creature on board so that Charge of the Mights could blow up their Shepherd. And then they're down to just a Watcher and 5 Mights. 5 Mights is a problem. But, problem that we might be able to deal with. Okay, we do hit a land. Perfect. Now we charge the Shepherd while they're tapped out. And we triple block. We block 3 of the Mights. If they attack with all of them, we take 2 poison and kill 3 of their Mights. And our game plan is going to be Battle Chair. We're just going to play a Battle Chair and start attacking with that every turn. I might have drawn a Complete Devotion or something. That would be pretty bad for me. If it's the +2/+1 to the whole field, that's super devastating. That would be pretty nasty here. It is a Complete Devotion, which is still pretty bad. So now they kill one of my 3/3s and draw a card. Ooh, 7th land is actually nice here. Because now with the Battle Chair, I can put the Battle Chair onto other creatures if they kill the Rebel that it comes with. Obviously attacking with the Might, because it can't block anyway. And there's our 2 blockers for their 2 Mights. Yep, so they hit us for 1 in the sky. Last turn, there's an Orthodoxy Enforcer as a 4/4 Vigilance. That's a really good creature to put a Battle Chair onto in the future. That might be the play. Enforcer this turn, then move the Battle Chair to it next turn. Because we have another creature getting played here, we're still going to have 2 blockers for the 2 Mights, so we are going to send in for damage here with the Battle Chair. They are going to go ahead and trade the Watcher into our Might to draw a card, which is super weird and also a huge bummer, because now the Enforcer doesn't get +2/+0 anymore. We only have 1 artifact out. I really did not expect that trade, but it is fine value for them, since they do draw a card when the Watcher dies. Well, this is probably another Complete Devotion, but at 5 poison and 10 life, I can't really not block. Oh, is it White Sun's Twilight? No! Alright, well, they got it. They got us. That blows up the entire board and gives them 5 poisonous Mights, which will kill us. Hit us for exact lethal. I guess if they can't kill Basilica Shepherd, then we can block 1 Might and go to 4 poison. But yeah, White Sun's Twilight, if it's cast for 5 or more, just ends the game. Complete Devotion, not going to save us. Would need to somehow get 3 blockers out this turn. I don't have anything that's going to do that for 4 or less mana that I could draw into. But I could see what we hit. Another one. Another one. And there's the forest for Zopandrel, but Zopandrel was never going to save us because even if our creatures are gigantic, it's just 1 blocker. Oh, they have the counter spell too. Nasty ending to that game for us. But what can you do there? We are 4-2 heading into game 7. Alright, here we go, game 7. Fair Basilica, turn 1 to get the tap land out of the way, and then just a ton of interaction. Charge of the Mites doesn't work on its own, but Ossification and Planar Disruption sure do. Don't have any creatures to play in the early game, which is a pretty big problem. We're not going to be curving out at all, but when our mana is good like this, and we have all of our premium interaction, I don't think I'm going to mulligan. Vindictive Flamestoker, that can draw them 4 cards later, so by exiling it, I sort of get a 4-for-1, because it's going to draw them 4 cards in the late game, so I think I just exile that immediately. I guess Disruption works on it also, technically. Stops its activated ability. Stinging Hive Master is the next play. We'll play a 2-4 to block that. If our opponent doesn't have a combat trick, then they don't really get to get an attack in here. Vraska's Fall, that will blow up our Enforcer and give us a poison counter, meaning we're going to be at 2 poison from the Hive Master. Well, Steward is big enough to trade into Hive Master. Still don't think I disrupt that. I'd rather save that for a bigger threat later. Just trade the Steward into it. Steward for Hive Master or Steward for a combat trick are fine trades. And Steward for Hive Master it is. They've got 5 mana up, could be Furnace Strider mana, but they would have done that pre-combat. Anoint with Affliction, get rid of the Jawbone Duelist, and pass the turn. Well, it's kind of an issue. I don't think that I'm supposed to sack this land when I have the 6-drop in my hand, but we do really need to hit a creature, otherwise just a single Mite is actually a big deal. We are going to get corrupted here. It might have been worth it to planar disrupt the Mite, but that feels super wrong. Because it should be easy enough for them to corrupt us later in the game anyway. Cruel Grimnarch. We definitely discard Charge of the Mites, I think. I guess it could be Tyvar's Stand, but we're going to disrupt that, so we definitely don't discard that. It's one of these two in the middle here. I think I'm discarding Charge of the Mites. There's the 5th mana for Battle Chair. We are 1 away now, and we'll disrupt the Grimnarch and pass the turn. Terramorphic Expanse from our opponent. And I just grab another mountain. And a Hexgold Halberd, very scary on big creatures, gives whatever it's equipped to First Strike and Trample during their turn, so super scary on Testament Bearer, that's for sure. Crawl and Chorus, we're still just waiting for 1 land. Sylvok Battlechair will be the largest creature on this board. But just more gas from our opponent, that's a 2-for-1 vehicle here. Board state's getting wide and large at the same time. Slam First Strike Trample onto the Testament Bearer. And when the bearer dies, they do get to draw another card. is annoying. But we need to stop as much damage as possible here. So we'll stop the 4 Testament Bearer damage and let them draw their card. Miss on the battle chair mana again, so we just drop the spawning that we drew into. Rib Skiff starts hitting us pretty hard now. We'd have to double block to stop that. Could have sent Coruscant if I want to try to get them corrupted, but we're too far on the defensive here. Bat of Rebirth. Once 4 of their artifacts or creatures die, they can reanimate 1 thing. For a 4 mana investment total. Kind of just like a 4 mana sorcery, reanimate, but it takes forever to get used. Alright, fair enough. X-Gold Slash on our spawning was super bad for us. And this might just be it here. Gonna go for the chump. I stopped 1 damage by blocking the Trampler, so at least I'll stop 2 by blocking the 2/2, I guess. We're also at 8 poison. There's the battle chair, but it's too late. We're at 8 poison with 1 blocker. They have 3 poisonous attackers, potentially. Because this doesn't stop the Grimnarch from crewing, so they can just keep hitting with Rib Skiff. So that, unless I draw something phenomenal, which I don't think we have in our deck for 3 mana. Yeah, that is just game. Gonna be 4-3, perfectly reasonable record. Love to hit 4-3 drafts on average. If I could 4-3 every draft, I'd be perfectly happy, and this is a pretty mediocre, pretty average looking deck. So 4-3 is a super respectable run for it. Don't think I played super well, although I think I played my worst in the games that we won, which is always weird. Yeah, we have some really good stuff going for this deck and some pretty poor things that bring it down. So obviously, you know, seeing cards like Zopandrel, you'd be like, yeah, this is a slam dunk insta 7-win deck. This thing's incredible. But we didn't actually manage to get a very good, very synergistic curve out with this deck. Our biggest issues really being if we could swap out, I don't know, maybe a Cultivator, Double Praetor, Enforcer. Maybe a Battle Chair or something. If these like 4 or 5 cards were just a bunch more 2-mana toxic creatures, like the 2-mana 2/2 First Strike Toxic 1, or the 2-mana 3/1 Toxic 2, a bunch of stuff like that, our deck would be significantly better. More synergistic, it would curve out a lot better. As we saw in the gameplay, the Stewards like very rarely did anything. Cultivator was still solid, and then Enforcer was okay as well. The Stewards were the biggest kind of jankety card in the deck, but the viral spawnings were great. The complete devotions were great. 3s maybe a little much. And then Ossification, Plane, and Disruption were excellent removal. Yeah, a lot of super good stuff. Like all the interaction, the combat tricks, the viral spawnings, the Shepherd, Zopandrel, Battle Chair at the top was working great for us, Vorak, the toxic creatures were good, but yeah, something as simple as just having a few moderately off synergy cards can just lower the power level of your deck quite a bit in this format. And we didn't have like a super good, you know, like Signpost Uncommon or anything really to glue the deck together, like a Slaughter Singer that gives all of our toxic creatures +1/+1 every time they attack. So yeah, maybe like dropping one of our combat tricks or our Charge of the Mites or something, and these creatures for, again, more 2-mana toxic creatures. Maybe a Flensing Raptor at 3 mana, the 3-mana 2/2 flyer with Toxic 1 that sends another toxic creature into the sky. Would have ended with a super good deck that I think could have gotten higher up there, maybe even somewhere near 7 wins. So, yeah, huge bomb, great removal, gonna win us a lot of those games. Decent tricks with the complete devotions, and an okay curve. So we still can find some victories in there and get a solid 4-3 run. But those are the good things and the bad things about the deck, the things we can learn for the future. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, that is going to end today's video. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to hang out with me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below, and if you'd like to support the channel directly, as these patrons have, you can check out the Patreon page in the link in the description below. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.